international arena, Dalai Lama expresses condolences for victims of cloudbursts and floods in Ladakh, India. US military begins first stage of a transfer of a huge airbase to Iraqi control. And China and the US military engage in a war of words.
Tibetan spiritual leader the Dalai Lama shared the sorrow of the victims of the natural catastrophe that hit all over the world, including the cloudbursts and floods in the Ladakh region of India. He expressed his condolences in his discourse at the famous Dagposha Drupling Monastery in Kullu, district of India's northern state of Himachal Pradesh, yesterday. During his visit to the monastery, he spoke about the various natural calamities which occurred in various parts of the world. Flash floods following a cloudburst ravaged hundreds of houses and rendered many homeless in Ladakh region of Jammu and Kashmir. The Dalai Lama is currently on a religious tour of Kullu Manali, visiting monasteries and delivering sermons. Scores of foreign devotees from across the world thronged to the Dagposha Drupling Monastery for an audience with the Tibetan spiritual leader and listened to his discourse. Military plans to reduce forces in Iraq to 50,000 troops by the end of the month, when they will formally move to a more advisory role supporting Iraq's security forces. It will formally end combat operations on August 31st. The US Air Expeditionary Wing, along the 4th Battalion of the 17th Brigade of the Iraqi Army, conducted a departure ceremony attended by US and Iraqi military commanders at Balal military base, 8 kilometers in northern Baghdad. The US Major General Craig A. Franklin, commander of the 332nd AEW, dubbed such an event as a significant milestone. Car bombs, bomb attacks and daily assassinations represent the main challenge to Iraqi forces, who are already suffering from a lack of equipment and weapons. US President Barack Obama emphasized on August 2nd the commitment to pull US combat troops out of the country by the end of August. Military bluff that China and the United States are playing off the Chinese coast could erupt into a full-fledged crisis if the Pentagon worries about missteps ever come true. But Taiwan's defense spokesperson said yesterday it is unconcerned despite the warnings that China's increment of its artillery pointed at the self-ruled island could result in misunderstanding and miscalculation. The annual US Defense Department report voiced its concern over the lack of transparency in China's growing military power, but critics in China disagree. China has been investing heavily in its military and navy, sending fleets as far away as Somalia and more recently to Japan's southern islands, to Tokyo's angst and alarming the US, which maintains a heavy presence in the Asia-Pacific with bases in Okinawa, Guam, equipped with warships and advanced attack submarines. The 83-page report also listed the deployment of 1,050 to 1,150 short-range ballistic missiles over the Taiwan Strait last December, claiming that China may be developing a new road-mobile intercontinental ballistic missile that can strike several targets.
Taking a look back at one of our local stories, United National Party parliamentarian Vijaydasa Rajapaksa, speaking in Parliament yesterday, expressed his views with regard to the verdicts returned by the first court-martial appointed to hear charge against former Army Commander Sarath Fonseca. The MP expressed this view while joining the debate on the Civil Procedure Code Amendment Bill.
We are in need of national discipline. Honourable Speaker, the opinion of the country is that sometimes the only people who speak to the government ministers are individuals who are close to them. However, politicians from any political party can come and speak with us. If you step onto the road and ask a member of the SLFP if what was done to the general was fair, no one will speak up and say that it is correct. A UNPer will never say this. When Karuna Amman entered this parliament, none of us objected. All of you sympathized to an extent where you were able to forgive him. We know how KP is being treated. When there is such a situation, therefore, why don't all of you want to treat him as a human or as a parliamentarian? When you become a political leader, you have to be able to face unfair political rulings. Finally, all of us have to go before the public. The public decides the fate of the political leaders. So finally, the legal system could give unfair rulings, but as politicians, we should be able to face them and go forward with the people. Vijayadas Rajapaksa says that there is injustice. However, when the Supreme Court was unfair and he was on this side, he was silent. I know that very well. So when you are on one side, it is fair. When you are on the other, it is unfair. So finally, as politicians and political leaders, the public has the final say.
අපි අන්තිමටම ජනතාවට වැටෙන්නේ ජනතාව තමයි අන්තිම තීරණය ගන්න.
Well, taking a look at sports news now. Well, today is the fourth day of the inaugural Youth Olympic Games, which is being hosted by Singapore. Incidentally, the first athletics event, which saw the participation of a Sri Lankan athlete, was also held today.
Indranil Herath competed in the 1000 meters event today representing Sri Lanka. However, Indranil only managed to clock a time of 2 minutes 30.83 seconds to finish in 7th place. The 1000 meters event is being held instead of the 800 meters event. Charlie Grace of Great Britain came in first, while the second and third places went to Morocco and Brazil.
Well, French footballer Nicolas Anelka has been banned for 18 matches for his role in France's World Cup revolt. The punishment could spell the end of Anelka's international career.
31-year-old striker Nicolas Anelka was banished from the French squad at the World Cup in South Africa for insulting coach Raymond Domenech at half-time of a 2-0 defeat by Mexico. The outcry sparked by his foul-mouthed comments and the length of the ban imposed on him by the Disciplinary Commission of the French Football Federation means that the Chelsea player is unlikely to wear his country's colours again. The fact that he did not attend yesterday's hearing also suggests that Anelka, who scored 14 goals for France, has accepted that his international days are over. Meanwhile, World Cup captain Patrice Evra was banned for 5 matches for leading a boycott of a training session over Anelka's banishment. The French Football Federation banned Franck Ribéry for 3 games and Jérémy Toulon for 1.
Well, with that, we wrap up this edition of Lunchtime News, but be sure to join us on our early updates. Until then, take care.